Hi, everybody. This is 1,120 days today. And we have breaking news again. Lots of breaking news. So every day is breaking news. And I'm not kidding and I'm not over exaggerating. So let's see if I'm on Facebook, if everything is working right. I don't see me. Hmm. Let's see if I did something wrong. Okay, it says streaming. It says streaming. Okay. I'll take it all off and I'll see. There I am. Okay. Thank you so much, Anicia. All right, so I'm on here. I see I can answer questions now. Good evening. And I posted a picture of Edwin. Um, his name is Edwin Sitienei. I hope I'm saying that right. Um, and it's important because we have information. I mentioned him yesterday, um, and I have lots of information that I even had to write notes for. But this, I wanted just to get to this very quickly because he has a very close relationship with Leilani Hart. And because he has a very close relationship with Leilani Hart and he has a close relationship with the military, with Fort Bliss, and he has this picture up on LinkedIn, and so we really feel curious about what he could tell us. Maybe he could level with us. And that's why we have put this out there. This Humvee has Lieutenant Ha on it. Is that Lieutenant Hart? How many Lieutenant Ha's are there? He could tell us. He could tell us a lot. And so instead of us just supposing or guessing, we're reaching out to him and we have lots of questions. And I think if you are a investigative journalist, you should have a lot of questions too when it comes to this case. And, you know, I think that it takes a lot of courage to have questions and interest in this case. I really do. Because I think you can really, I think the way they cleaned things up, because we're getting news, y'all, that this was all ordered to the CID. We have a criminal complaint in about Special Agent Soto, and I spoke to him many, many times. There were never really hard feelings at all. This is purely professional, and we believe that, um, especially being having a German background and knowing about the that there's no excuse in I was just taking orders, okay? Because there are human rights, and there's no, you can't just say I was taking orders. And I feel like um, Special Agent Soto, from what from the intel that we're getting, that he was asked to do things that broke the right, that committed a huge crime and against Richard and against our family, a big crime, and the only person that could really order him would be at the beginning of all of this would be Major General Clem Coward, and then of course General Garrett, and then General McConville. And so I believe that they committed um, huge crimes in the cover up of the murder of our son. And I say all the time it's a presumed murder. I, you know, my feeling is it's 99.99999% that this was premeditated murder, and um, the people that know something about this would be it would be so we would appreciate it so much for Sachene. I hope I'm saying his name right. Um, Edwin, for him, please, to come forward and to explain this picture, explain your what you have experienced there at Fort Bliss, and if you knew Richard, and um, many different questions like that. The other thing, I mean, wouldn't that just make sense? It would make sense for him to come forward. And I'm just always praying. I'm just always praying for someone to come forward. And I think that this would be a chance. And I'll even display, let's see if I can display this picture here. And I don't know if I can hone in, but if you look right here, you can see um, the Lieutenant Hart. And so, yeah, I would really like, answers to that. The other, and, having that close relationship, he wrote a character, a character reference letter for Leilani Hart. So he absolutely has to have a very, very close relationship and dealings with her in order to write what he wrote. And it was very, very close. So I think he could give us also not only some insights on First Lieutenant Hart, but also to Leilani Hart. Now, I think that Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart should even reach out to him. And I'm sure you have his number, and ask him. I mean, this would be a good character reference for both of you, because it seems by the letter that Edwin wrote for Leilani that, he really cares for her. So, this would be a great opportunity um, to have a positive in your column. Uh, the column is so negative with all of these El Paso um, and Hawaiian police reports um, of domestic disturbance, domestic abuse, harassment, and even more that that we are going over even more, and it just doesn't seem to be ending all of the um, false allegations that Leilani made to cause trouble at Park University. And there's just a lot of trash in their history. And of course, we cannot forget the the criminal affidavit that was notarized. And I talked to the notary public. He had it in his hands. Um, so he, uh, in order to notarize it, he has to believe that Leilani believes it is true. And so he notarized it. So, does he believe that Leilani believes that what she wrote is true? Apparently so, because it is notarized. And in that um, notarized criminal complaint affidavit is the allegations, not my allegations. This is Leilani Hart is alleging that Dallas Hart was engaged in incest while he was in the military, which is, you know, uh, that's a criminal. That's a criminal offense. That there was a history of sexual abuse all through their family, um, a history of incest all through their family, violent threats, um, and even threats on Leilani Hart's immigration status, a threat to her life, saying, one morning you might not even wake up. It's as simple as that. That's, oh my goodness, right? So there are violent threats. There are allegations. These aren't my allegations. These are the notarized Leilani Hart allegations that James Hart bought weapons illegally, possessed weapons illegally, and also child pornography in the home long periods of time, and that her friend, and I have a very hard time with this. I mean, with friends like Leilani, who needs enemies? I mean, you go over to her house, you have two children. Oh, my husband will babysit, and you know that your husband has a long history of child sexual abuse, and other and is very violent, and yet you leave your friend's children, a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, there to be babysat. um, and they have Heart childcare. Don't forget about that, Heart childcare. um, and I wonder if that is connected to the government, because when the emergency intake center got started, it it drained El Paso from its child care workers to go and work at the emergency intake center. And so, there was a real need for childcare, and so um, the army paid, or the government paid, then people in the area for home childcare. So I just think that that needs to be investigated. But to leave your friends' children with your very dangerous, unsafe husband and family members, and then to be outraged that the 7-year-old was sexually assaulted in your master bedroom by multiple members of the family or the household. Um, I think that is a wow. With friends like Leilani, who needs enemies, right? I think that was just, um, it just is very, very telling to me as a mother. It's, and as a grandmother, it's very telling. Um, the other thing is, the other side of the story is that James Hart wrote me and said that these are lies. And, um, okay, this is a notarized criminal complaint affidavit. Where is the police report? Where is the report to the command that that your wife put in these false allegations in a notarized criminal complaint affidavit to the CID, and it went through, to the FBI, and it went through. Um, where is your um, report? Because you see, this is something that we know from being in the military, is that if someone does something like this to you, especially when you have a high GS position, um, the higher you go up in GS, the more clearance you have, the more trusted you are with sensitive information and service members' files. And when you work for the VA and you have service members' files, even their medical files, even their mental health files, this is very, very sensitive information. And so you are obligated as a civil servant, when you have reports like this, like what Lalani Hart, of incest and raping a 7-year-old and being very, very violent and possessing guns that are not legally obtained, that and more, right? And more on child pornography. If someone makes these many, many false allegations, you are obligated to let the command know. You have to report that. And the same thing with Park University, um, which leads us to some more breaking news, because the breaking news is that Intel is telling us that Richard not only put in CPS complaints and CID complaints, but he complained to Park University. He complained about Park University, and he complained about certain faculty members at Park University. And so this is breaking news. And, we're going to, this next week, put in, a request for information about this. The request for Richard's academic files, not even a receipt response yet. Not even we have received, not even from Anna Whitehead, who is the district manager for Park University there on Fort Bliss, and she hasn't even acknowledged that she received our email and our request. So this is a game to them, a legal game to them, but it's not a legal game to us. It's not a game. Our son is missing. And we are 99.999% sure this is premeditated murder, and that the CID is implicated in this murder. Okay. And the CID is implicated in the cover up with many others. With many others. And that brings us back to Special Agent Soto, who we're getting, intel that he played a pivotal and a very evil role in the cover up of Richard and Richard's remains. And this is it just makes you cry when you're a family member, because we were always so ready to hear about our son. And it never made sense to us that they would try to make him mentally ill, but make him an El Capone and really clever. Oh, he's so clever, but he's suicidal. He committed suicide or something like this. It never, it's like, excuse me, that can you choose one? Can you choose one? And then, does it really matter? I guess it matters more now. It matters more now that you need to find him. And in the vile, vulgar messages that we were receiving, for 3 months at the beginning when I did answer a couple of them, I would say, it doesn't, okay, fine, whatever you say, but find him and then we can judge him. And you know what the response back was? Is that we already judged him. We already judged him. And I think they carried out their judgment. That's my opinion, by the tone and um, the vile, vulgar messages that was being sent to us. It was very clear that they had already judged him, which means that they already had dealt out their punishment. And to me, that meant that they had premeditated murdered him. That is my opinion through all of this. And I'm not talking about someone that has been on this for 5 days or 10 days or even 100 days. We're talking about 3 years. We're talking about 1,120 days. And so, we're not coming from nowhere. We have been through the vile and vulgar messages. We have been through having to learn how to trace, track these burner phones, and they went to government officials, NATO, the White House, um, an an embassy. That's where the FBI are, and also then Santa Clara, California, the hub of asymmetric warfare tactics, which what they do is they mess with online communication with bots and narratives and even deleting people, banning people and whatnot. And we know that they go to that extreme because our one of our key witnesses is banned, and we're trying to lift that ban. And to just follow orders um, is is no excuse for obstructing justice, denying due process, and just being human, right? You have to be a humanitarian in life. You just can't say the survival of the fittest and cover up for the criminals. And that's what's been going on here is the cover up for the criminals. And people ask, how is that? They wouldn't cover up. They would if the criminals were very, very well connected and had a lot of money. Okay. And so they do. They're very, very well connected. There is a connection, a common denominator here, and that is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they have a lot of money. They have X amounts more than um, even Apple computers or Microsoft. They're very, very wealthy. And so, why would they want to spend money to cover this up? I don't know, but I know that the lawyer is also LDS. We know that many of the suspects are all LDS. That means Mormon. And we've called out for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to contact us and um, and be a light to help us because they absolutely could if they wanted to help us find Richard. And I believe even Edwin is also LDS. Um, and so I see that that's where the closeness comes from. Maybe it's other reasons, but could be. And I think that Lalani and Edwin and James Hart could tell us. But James Hart, as a GS employee, not not fulfilling the obligation to report his wife, um, is a really big, a very big problem. And we, know by our intel that he's he has a criminal record, because anytime you're arrested, you have a criminal record. And so there is, there is so um, we know in their divorce, they're in the process of a divorce, that she Leilani Hart claims cruelty and infidelity. Okay, which leads us to friends with benefits in the VA. Um, and we believe that maybe I'll leave that for in the next couple days, because there is just um, so much coming out with just the fact that Richard would complain about the faculty there on Park University. And so it really stuns people to think about how vast this is, and why would they really be doing it. Now, and I'm going to tell you right now, um, and I'm going to be posting up some more things about fraud and forgery. I think forgery, for many of these people that are just thieves. One of the ways they are thieves is that they um, steal people's identity. Okay, I think that's why the immigration status is needs to be investigated of Leilani Hart, because we have information, and we know by the Interpol picture that was submitted of Richard that was manipulated. And we know that by the group, the Leilani Hart group, the Dallas Hart fan club group, um, that they have stolen Richard's identity. They don't think twice about doing it. They have stolen our identity. We believe that there's a lot of forgery and a lot of identity being stolen, and that needs to be investigated. So that needs to be, um, you know, Veltri. I have this letter from Veltri here. I think that's going to go down in history, down in history. And it is just, well, let's just say we're shaking things up pretty good. We're we're shaking things up pretty good because of Team Find Richard Halliday, because of everything that you all are sending us. And we're very, very grateful, because you cannot live a life like that. Um, let's say it's not like that. It's a very clean life, but Leilani just has gone crazy, and she's just making all these crazy allegations in her um, affidavit, and also in her divorce um, information. But we have even more. We have even more. We have all of the documents from the police. And so, you if it was all lies, you would not have all of that evidence. And we maintain, and I think Edwin can help us with this also. We maintain that Dallas Hart seems to have been, I have to put that in there, even though we are like 99.99%, seems to have been the platoon leader for Delta Battery 143. Okay. And that there were lots of interactions and um, other things when it comes to Richard and Dallas Hart. And so we maintain that he is. And um, there is another name too, a sergeant that we're going to reach out to also. Um, Let me see what his name is. I have it written down that we were given. And a lot of this time I read through documents and they don't even mean to give me the name. It's just in the documents and then it sticks out. And, with my husband, with Team Farm Richard Halliday, we looked these people up. Um, Sergeant Partita Roderick. Yeah. So we're going to reach out to him also and see if he could help us get some information. And we have several names that was given to us, but he seems to have a history there at Fort Bliss and in the Army. And so he would know kind of what was going on when Richard disappeared and seems to have some relationships with people in this case. So we'll be absolutely reaching out to him also. Okay, if there's any, good evening. Thank you, Danielle, for coming on. Thank you, Anicia. Like I said, it's the big news is that James Hart seems to have failed to fulfill his obligation to report his wife's notarized criminal complaint affidavit to the command there, to the officials there on Fort Bliss. Um, if I'm wrong, I would really like to hear about that. You know, um, also that Richard seems to have made, this is what I have to say before I say anything, seems to have made Park University complaints on top of the CID and the CPS complaints. And we did get the names of those that he was complaining about. And I'm not going to release that yet until I verify, but it's very interesting that we were given information that he was making complaints at Park University. And don't forget that our intel tells us that Richard was a student there. We know that he was taking classes. We know that he was wanting to go into law enforcement. Um, but I think Soto could have told us, could have talked to us about it, and could have absolutely talked about the internship into the CID, because that's what we are getting back, is that Richard was an intern for the CID. Seems to have been. Seems to have been. And so that is really, really important information. It lasts 8 to 12 weeks. So where do we go from here? We continue to make the criminal complaints. We continue to reach out. Absolutely. We continue to reach out to those that we think um, will help us. And we're getting so many names. I have 4 more names here. And then I have, of course, the police reports that were given to us. And you do not have this kind of history if nothing's going on. Okay? If nothing's going on, if everything is a lie. So I just want to say thank you so much. I know I was coming on late, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If you have any comments about the picture of that Lieutenant Ha, does that Does that shock you as much as it did me? That's why we decided to reach out to Edwin. And, you know, we thought about just calling him and asking him to go report, right? Report what he knows. Where do our soldiers that want to be whistleblowers, where can they go? Can they go to the CID? No, the CID is implicated. It seems to be implicated in the murder and cover up of our son. Can they go to the military police? No. Can they go to the DES or the chief of security of Fort Bliss? No. Could they go to Park University? No. Could they go to the command? No. Could they go to the IG? No, they can't. It's been infiltrated. It's used against them. It's been weaponized. The system has been weaponized against our young, vulnerable, most valuable assets, volunteer sons and daughters. And you know, could you go to the press even? No, if it does not fit the political narrative, they are not going to touch it. And then if it is something they think needs to go in the paper, many times they won't touch it because they're afraid of retaliation because people have made so much money in the last decade, 2 decades. We have people in high places that are so evil, and they're the ones that are running things. And so, if you want to know who they are, you go look at the contracts. You go look at the contracts, okay? And who's running it, and who's behind who's running it. Um, so, if you wonder who they is, that's who they is. The contracts are huge. Land contracts are huge. Building contracts are huge. War, and especially right now, since war is kind of um, really there's no excuse even to send it to Ukraine, right? Um, but they want some kind of contracts, and this is where the forgery comes into play. They have to forge and they have to pretend like they're somebody else so they don't have to pay the taxes, so they can hide who they really are. Uh, and people can't uh, get a know how. You know, they do that all the time with the companies. Like most of the rental cars, we found out were all owned by the same person, you know, but they're under different names because they want that appearance that there's not a monopoly, but there is virtually a monopoly when it comes to rental cars, and that's why it's just so expensive. Um, there is, I believe, fraud, waste and abuse, and the fraud is to steal, is to use the system to steal, just to be thieves of people's identities, people's uh, entitlements. They will steal their social security number. And why do I say this? Because Richard's social security number has been accessed and tampered with. And there's no sign of life with him, but there's sign of life with his social security card where they can use to get loans with and to steal with and whatever. So that is another thing that we have put in for an investigation. And you know, are they going to do it? I don't know. I don't know. All right, everyone. I know it's Saturday night. Please write a letter to Major General Eisenhower. He could be the real hero in all of this if he would lift the ban and let our key witness come on to Fort Bliss without any fear and uh, and get the answers that would help us uh, probably find Richard or get very, very close. So thank you so much, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.